This is iRacing.
With only 11 turns and a little over 2 miles in length, Laguna Seca doesn't seem like it should be that complex. But anyone who's taken to the pavement here knows it's anything but. Time to hit the corkscrew once again as we get ready for round 7 of the Skip Barber Sim Series. You'll see it all live here on the Global SimRacing Channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is Alex Goldschmidt. Behind the scenes is our director, Christian Duploy, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Alex, for a track that doesn't see much international competition, this is a place that's really built up quite a legend in the racing world.
Yeah, I still remember it being part of the American Le Mans series way back when, and it had some great battles. I mean, especially if anyone might remember Kevin Magnussen's efforts in a Corvette coming out of the final corner, heading towards the checkered. But yeah, I mean, Laguna Seca is a roller coaster here in Wine County in California, but it also has that real fast-flowing nature. So the driver's going to really have to bring momentum to this circuit here at Laguna Seca, and it is all about of being on your A game every single corner, every single apex.
It absolutely is. And for our viewers who have not become familiar with Laguna Seca, let's head to our track guide. Welcome to Laguna Seca. Located just east of Monterey, California, it's hard to deny that this is one of the more scenic American road courses. It travels up and down a hillside which not only offers spectacular views, but one of racing's most iconic corners. Clocking in at 2.25 miles in length, 11 turns split up the current configuration. I say current because up until 1988, the track's layout was shockingly simple with a mere 9 dangerously fast corners. But despite becoming a much more technical track, this difficult nature was retained in its modern form. Turn 6 in particular places an emphasis on precision and daring with its tricky dip at the apex and narrow racing line. But the most well-known spot on the track is of course the corkscrew. Blind and kinked on entry, it then whips the driver through a chicane which drops you nearly 60 feet. It's earned a reputation worldwide for forcing even the most daring competitors to second-guess themselves. But there's honestly a refreshingly wide variety in types of corners, making it a perfect track for driver coaching and training. Elevation changes, differing cambers, and every sort of apex imaginable leaves seasoned veterans and newcomers alike spending hours trying to perfect a lap. With the track becoming popular for hosting IMSA, IndyCar, and MotoGP in its recent history, it also brings out lots of vintage racers due to the Monterey historics each year. Likely to remain a fixture on the American racing scene, this legendary circuit is almost always high on drivers' best of lists. Its history and its uniqueness are sure to delight all for years to come. Well, you can see there's a lot of unique corners. You were talking about it, Alex. There's just so many tests around this lap, despite only 11 of those corners.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to provide for some close course elbows out racing here at WeatherTech Raceway. Laguna Seca, established back in 1957, measures just over 2.2 miles. And then the elevation change, you mentioned about the corkscrew, you're dropping 55 meters within a couple of turns. And that can really catch out a lot of people because it's a blind apex going downhill, first of all. And then you've got to really nail the exit point, because if we see 2 or 3 wide here in the Skip Barber Race Series, it could be very close for comfort for our drivers here tonight.
Indeed. So as we take a look at the map there, that's what the drivers will be competing on. But we also have our race details for today as well of what they'll be competing in. And as I mentioned, we are into round 7 on this one. We'll take a look at those details in just a second here, but drivers have been well used to it at this stage. Of course, going to be only 15 laps since they do get around this place relatively quickly. But that 15 laps should provide enough opportunities to try to settle out who is a deserving winner. It is open setup, but as we always say every week, it really doesn't make too much difference. These cars are pretty basic on setup. It is a standing start. That's going to be a big factor, especially down into turn 2 at Andretti, the first braking zone. They have a spare car if they run into trouble, but You really don't want to have to use it with the races being so short. Main thing, though, you got to watch out for the incident limit at 17. You're going to get disqualified, so keep it within the track boundaries. Do believe we are into the qualifying currently, and I have a feeling that's going to be a bit of an important session, Alex. This place not exactly known for making overtakes easy.
It isn't. I mean, especially, you know, some of the big overtaking opportunities will be coming into the Andretti hairpin. That could be where we're going to see three wide action early doors. And then, of course, if you get it wrong coming out of turn 10A down at the bottom of the corkscrew into 9 at Rainey's, you've really got to put it all together. But again, that turn 11 is going to be very, very crucial for how qualifying is going to showcase things as... we are now about 5 minutes to go until this qualifying session ends.
Indeed, and looks like we don't have any times in yet, which is a bit surprising. Usually I would have expected we had at least one lap down by now, but it does take, I believe, in the realm of somewhere around a minute 40, minute 30 to try and circulate in these Skip Barber cars. Watching Tiro here with the number 1. That is the highest I-rating driver out there, sitting at just under 8K, about 7,700s, which is pretty darn high up there. And we'll see how he can do as the Finn comes out of that final 11th turn. He goes well off into the curbing, but you are now allowed to do that since an update a couple years ago here at iRacing. And his first lap time is showing as a 1:36.8. So there is our marker.
Yeah, as we've now got the number 2 car, Vlado Tito going across the line. Interesting choice of words behind the steering wheel there about the rev counter binnacle, I have to say. But people we do always see get very creative with their liveries over the years that have passed here on iRacing.
Absolutely. They do have some fun. Obviously not just original ones like this, but there's a lot of homages to classic paint schemes on other open wheelers like Formula One and IndyCar. As you can see right here at the old Benson and Hedges machine, the old Jordan car that Sanchez has been running. Yeah.
Yeah, which was actually replaced by, I think, what was it, Bitten Heroes at one point, because at that point, tobacco sponsorship was being outlawed by FOM and the FIA. So we see Emanuele Lecce in the number 12 car go up the hill, but at the moment, Tero Hittanen is currently leading the way, and his gap over Brandon Croster is now close to 1 3/4 tenths of a second as Xavier Sanchez absolutely manhandling the number 6 car through turn number 10, now through the tight left-hander, and then he's going to run a little bit wide coming out of the final corner. And at the minute, well, it is his fastest lap at the moment, a 1:37.148, which puts him 4th, and he's just gone in and gone... Well, Heaton's just got even quicker in this session here, Joe. 1:36.292. As Philip Burke, running the old ATS Formula One livery in the number 3 car, runs P9.
Definitely a bit more of an obscure one, but I do like the way it looks on this Skip Barber Formula 2000. So yeah, those second laps look to be the one that drivers are aiming for. I'm going to guess that the tires are simply warming up, and let me check what the temperature is. 88 Fahrenheit on the track, so it's not exactly super cold, but I have a feeling that just getting those laps on the board is going to be the make or break, and make sure that you've got the temperature in for lap 2.
Yeah, that's going to be the big thing with regards to it, and you know, it's never easy. We both know about Laguna Seca. I mean, I've been on the sim a couple of times. Yeah, 88 degrees Fahrenheit roughly translates to Celsius, about 31 degrees centigrade. So it is going to be a hot track surface as well that these drivers are going to have to deal with, as Philip Burke gets it all sideways coming out of turn 10, managing to hold on to the number 3 car, but that's going to lose him a little bit of time.
Yeah, 37.2 for his first lap. That was 9th place, but as he crosses the line, 36.6. So yes, that second lap is just a huge jump, and that will put him on the front row ahead of Crasta, ahead of Sanchez. Now we check out Zuniga in the number 23 machine. And he has he set a time? I'm trying to find him out there.
Yes, currently P15 at the moment, Joe.
There he is. So first lap was a 41.7, actually pretty far off of our best times out here. It is a single split, which we usually don't see, and a classic Ferrari scheme on Eduardo. So lots of old school Formula One schemes that we're seeing out there. So what's his second lap going to hold as he comes across? 40.3. He definitely improves, but he's only up to 15th as we're still missing about 6 cars who look like they will not qualify.
Rather close between the top 10 at the moment, with Marcus Dorner in the number 5 car. 8 tenths separating the top 10, so we're going to have a very, very heated front end of the field, probably mid-pack as well as we're coming down to the final 20 seconds. And Vlado Tito has gone to within 14 thousandths of Tero Hittanen on his first lap. He puts in a 136. 306 in the number 2 car, so that just goes to show how quickly you can ramp up the tyres and the brakes. I mean, it's not easy to do in these Skip Barber cars, but 17 drivers all in all, Joe, managed to put down a qualifying lap in that session.
Still a surprising amount. They're going to be towards the back of the field. Thankfully, it doesn't look like many of them have high iRating, so it shouldn't be too out of place, as it looks like they're now gridding up. So going through our starting order, as we said, Hittanen on the top, Tito late in qualifying, coming up to the front row. Philip Burt gets bumped down to third. Brandon Craster will join him on the outside of that second row. Xavier Sanchez, good enough for fifth, as Peter Suapanki in the sixth position, rather. And then you've got Raul Guardia in seventh, Ricardo Martinez in eighth, and Jesus Cabal in ninth. Rounding out the top 10, Alex, looks like it's going to be Marcus Dorner.
Yeah, and then on to the second page, Jeff Randall and Emanuele Lecce rounding out the sixth row. Pedro Berbenara and Guillermo Iglesias, no relation to Julio or Enrique, I'm sure, or Gabriel Iglesias. Eduardo Zuniga, Jaap Wilchut, Jacques Pernaud, and then Jose Pino round out the top 18 positions. Luca Martin Marin and Patrick Fowler round out your top 20.
Just a couple more cars here at the very end, as it's Juan Hernandez, Mark Olszak, and then Mauricio Acevedo, rounding out our 23 drivers getting ready to take part in this session. And they should be going pretty soon here, as we've just about got everybody lined up. We're missing Burke up in third position, but otherwise it's drivers mainly down the field that we're waiting to hit the grid, and then we will be given the go-ahead, as we're getting a little bit of cloud cover here at the start of the race. Should keep the track nice and cool. As we can see, the drivers will be sliding around just a bit from time to time, and that can often overheat those tires, can lose you some pace. So keeping them in the right temperatures will be critical. So drivers waiting a while here before they release us. We have to get either all of them on the grid, or when the 2-minute timer is up, and it looks like that is it, as now the timer is over. The engines start to rev, and the green flag is out. Tiro does not get away all that great. Already it looks like Vlado is starting to gain around the outside, a little bit of 3 wide behind them, up and over the hill as they head towards the braking of the Andretti hairpin, fanning out for first place. And round the outside, Tito has got a nose ahead. Is he going to stay there by the time they get to turn 3? And it looks like he will.
Yeah, and that just goes to show how quickly you can anticipate the round the outside manoeuvre, the old Slim Shady manoeuvre that Vlado Tito just did, with Hittanen holding on to second. Philip Burke close on them as they come through turns 3 and into 4 before we go up underneath the Mother's Bridge and then through into turn 5. But you can see from the onboard, from the top of the airbox of Vlado Tito, there's Tero Hittanen, Philip Burke, Brandon Craster also there, and this is what we're going to see a lot of here, Joe. A big old Skip Barber peloton.
Absolutely. The slipstream will keep them close, but it's not going to be like in races past where they kind of have a slam dunk move to get past their rivals. Breaking up into the corkscrew, still mostly single file, a little bit of a look to the inside from Sanchez, but he backs out of it. So far, not seeing any cut course penalties, but that's going to be easy to do over the course of this race over the corkscrew.
Yeah, battle between Guardia and Martinez for P6 as they head into turn 10. And of course, they've got to be very, very careful of the adverse cambers. So this is where they've got, as I said, they've got to measure every apex, measure every braking point, and out of the final corner. And you can see a lot of them are going out, going very, very wide, coming out of turn number 11. As Xavier Sanchez has got through on Crasta. For the meantime, deftly little move up the inside through turn 1, as now Burke goes for a dive bomb on Heitinen, but does not get the exit that he needed. The back end stepped out to the right hand side on the number 3.
Boy, did it ever. It was sliding through that first hairpin. Look at them use every inch of the track and then some. All three of them just dipping a tire into the dirt out of turn 3. Looking for a good run. We continue to ride on board with Philip. I don't think he's got enough of one here up into 5. We'll have to continue to wait patiently.
Yeah, I mean, you see the gaps between everyone in the top 15. The gaps are no less than a second, all the way down to Fowler, as we see Hernan. Oh, so someone's had a bit of a drama. That's Luca Martin Marin, the Spaniard in the number 15. He's had a big old moment going up the hill. And that's not really helped him that much, to be completely truthful. But Espanella Martinez starting to get a move on, trying to battle with Guardia's Jesus Cabal is not too far behind him. He's about half a second back. Randall and Suopanki round out your top 10 at the moment. But Vlado Tito has kept the lead of the race, and he's opening up a gap to Tito Heitinen, which is now the best part of 4.5–5 tenths of a second so far here. But Suopanki is trying to go on the offensive against the number 5 of Marcus Dorner. Jose Pina closing in on Beberana for P12. And they're going to be wheel to wheel coming down the hill into turn 1. This could be very, very close as Brandon Crasta running in the old Brawn GP livery. He has got Martinez up the inside through at the Andretti hairpin. And great work by Martinez to cut across the front of Crasta coming out of turn 2 to get P6 by turn 3. Great stuff.
Just pounced on that as soon as he saw the opportunity. Crasta's not giving up, though. He is right behind him, has a good run coming out of 4, but there's just not as much braking as you'd think up here into 5. Uphill as it compresses. He holds on tight to the blue and white number 10 for the time being. And that has separated things just a little bit up front. Otherwise, we've seen most cars towards the back just absolutely nose to tail as, once again, Martinez dips 2 wheels in the dirt.
Heitinen now is going to get... Oh, that's brave from Heitinen to the outside. And he locks up the right front. That's through the corkscrew. Heitinen is going to lose a bag full of positions. And Burke gets through, Sanchez gets through. Heitinen is going to lose at least 6 to 7 places after that big old faux pas through the second half of the corkscrew. He locked up the right front. He's down to 6th, and Brandon Crasta is right on his rear wing.
Man, that's a really good illustration of just how punishing this track can be, especially in these cars. So much momentum-based are they. As here's Acevedo with, looks like maybe a bit of a problem up into turn 6. Oh, car in front of him gets a little sideways. Did he actually manage to dodge it? Well, doesn't look like he did in the end.
Oh, well, Acevedo had the right thought process. It was just what was going on in front of him. Didn't translate the way he wanted. Meantime, Raul Guardia in 4th place now has the fastest lap of the races. You can see how sideways Tito Heitinen is at the moment, trying to get the car through the corners. And sometimes in these Skippy Barber 2000s, you can go a little bit sideways, but only to a small degree. And what I mean by that is you don't want to be sideways completely the way through the corner, because you want to have some traction on those rear tyres.
Yep, rotation, but not sliding necessarily as much. So. Yep. Drivers will be aiming for that. You can definitely do that with the lift throttle oversteer that these things are very much known for. We look back up to our leaders. Tito, Burke, and Sanchez have not been able to separate up to this point. We hop on board with Sanchez, plunging down the hill as he comes back and forth through this left, right, left, downhill section out of Rainy Curve, staying glued to the gearbox of Philip Burke. Still nothing doing. at this stage, maybe setting up for this final corner, looking for the exit on the way down the main straight.
I mean, the top four at the moment, Joe, separated by 9/10 of a second. You saw the instant counter correction multiple times by Xavier Sanchez in the number 6 car, but Philip Burke closing on Vlado Tito, the race leader, down into the Andretti hairpin, and Raul Guardia again, another 136.14 by the man in 4th position, so he's really catching this top 3. We are going to have a quartet of drivers battling as we are approaching 1/3 distance. We're on lap 5 out of 15, and it's been pretty even at the moment. I mean, you said at the top of the show, Joe, that it was going to be difficult to overtake, but we've seen some great moves where drivers have really threaded the eye of the needle, so to speak.
Indeed, and look behind them. It's about 1 second back to Martinez there in 5th place. So depending on if this group works together very well, they could have more friends joining into this top group once again. But we'll keep an eye on that separation, as for now it is those top 4 in a little bit of a breakaway. And Hietanen still making up for his loss of position earlier, has looked away from defense on Krasta towards attack on Martinez. Will he actually attack?
Well, that's the thing. I mean, you can see that, well, Martinez kicks up the dust a little bit coming through the corkscrew. Hietanen trying to go through it. Rayleigh's at turn 9. That was brave, but it wasn't enough for the man from Finland as they go through turn 10. So you said about drivers working together. I think Hietanen is probably a little bit fired up after that kicking himself mistake he made through the corkscrew a couple of laps ago. As we now hit 1/3 distance, Vlado Tito still leads, but he's got Philip Burke, Xavier Sanchez, Raul Guardia closing in. And Philip Burke, he's right in the slipstream of Vlado Tito. He's going to put it to the outside and has to open up the steering to counter it. Xavier Sanchez, can he get through here at turn 2 on the exit? Not quite, but a great demonstration of how brazen you can be at the Andretti hairpin. And as we saw with Vlado Tito, he did the move early on Tero Hietanen on that downhill approach at the early point of the race, very much on the first lap. So, and this is a wonderful onboard we have at the moment with Vlado Tito showing. And now, there we go. Hietanen gets through on Guardia. That is now, well, that's actually Martinez he's got through. My apologies there. Gets through, so now Hietanen with a bit of clear air can start chasing down the quartet at the front.
And he needed to make that move. They were 0.3 of a second slower than the lead group, so he's losing touch. And we know that Tiro is quite quick when he's in clear air. So now we have to watch again to see if we have a change in the dynamics between these front 2 groups. It is 2 packs of 4, essentially, that are kind of working against or towards one another if they can help it there in that back group, now being led by our former pole sitter.
Yeah, and it's about how Tero Hietanen gets that gap down, but he's going to find that he is going to be bringing along the likes of Martinez, Krasta and Cabal to close on in. Raul Guardia is the fastest driver out on the track, but I think the Spaniard in the number 7 car, rounding out the top 4, as Xavier Sanchez is the first driver to dip under a 1:36, and now Guardia sees a little bit of an opportunity through the Andretti hairpin. Sanchez quick to close the door through turn 2 and on the run to 3.
Yeah, this is going to be difficult, I think, on how these drivers behind our leader play it. We've seen them have trouble executing because, like you said, they've been very good about capitalizing when things happen, but unless that driver ahead makes a mistake, Alex, it looks like it's going to be extremely hard to make something work.
Well, sometimes it's not about waiting for an opportunity. You've got to make it for yourself, Joe. And I think with the pace that Guardia has, he can be on the same level as Sanchez, Burke, and Tito. But look at Philip Burke. He's right on the rear. He's had to go right to avoid. Oh, they clash sidewalls, and Philip Burke gets a little tap on the left rear by Sanchez going down the second part of the corkscrew. They nearly both hit trouble, and that has put Sanchez a little bit further back. Burke now trying to hustle Tito along for that race lead as we're more than half distance. And look, Burke again, he's trying to do the crisscross here at turn 11. Sanchez might have thought about a dive bomb there, but look at the run that Philip Burke gets out of the final corner. This is going to be so close across the stripe. Burke gets the lead. Tito to the inside. Tito's going to have the inside line for the Andretti hairpin coming up, and he's going to have the shorter run to that corner. It's now going to open the door for Sanchez. What's Sanchez going to do? He dives to the inside. Nearly a clash of wheels between the pair. Can Sanchez pull around the outside manoeuvre over on Burke? Not quite, because he lost so much traction coming out of turn 2, but gathers it up again through 3, and he's right on the rear wing of Philip Burke, who's got a freight train behind him in the form of Sanchez and Guardia.
That is not a good sign for Philip Burke, because he had the monster of all runs coming off that corner and still unable to get it done because he was slotted to the outside, the longer distance run down to that first braking zone. He's going to have to somehow try to see if he can cut back underneath that number 2 machine as we hop back on board with Raul in 4th place. Last time by, it was a 35.7 for Hietanen, with Guardia a 36.1. That's the first lap where we've seen that second group become faster than the lead group, and I kind of wonder if some of that was helped with the battling we've seen.
Yeah, I mean, the gap was 1.6 seconds, Joe. It's now round about 1.2 as... Guardia nearly has a big old snap of oversteer through Rainey's at turn 9. He gathers it back up together. Doesn't lose him much time in battling with the top 3. Got to avoid that sausage curb on the inside of the final corner, but now the gap has come down to 1.1 seconds. So because this quartet at the front are battling, Hietanen, who's now gapped Martinez by 0.7 of a second as we go on to lap 9 out of 15. And Hietanen, new fastest lap of the race. 1 minute 35.683 by the man from Finland. And that gap is going to get ever closer as the corners and the laps dwindle away.
That was 0.3 of a second quicker than that lead group. So he is coming, and it looks like he's almost ready to break the slipstream to those behind, which is an impressive task in its own. Still, we see just unseparated by so little these top 4, Tito, Burke, Sanchez, Guardia, coming around now halfway through this race, climbing up the hill once again. Tito with about 1/4 of a second gap, but Philip Burke has already taken multiple prods to try and get by as we glance in now with Hietanen.
It's like having an unstoppable force versus the immovable object between Tito and Burke at the front end of the field here, Joe, as Burke's trying to find every which way he can to get through on the man in front of him in the number 2 car. And you can see a little bit more of a shorter cut on that second part of the corkscrew taken by Philip Burke, but it's lost him a little bit of time as the Croatian at the front end of the field, Vlado Tito, is continuing to hold on to that race lead. He has not relinquished it any way, shape or form in this race so far, and Philip Burke has... Oh, look at the run that Burke's got out of the final corner this time. He's right on the gearbox of Vlado Tito again. He's going to have to go to the outside because Vlado Tito can park the car where he wants to. He is the race leader, and Philip Burke to the outside. Is he going to get the job done as Guardia sets the fastest lap of the race? No, and there's a little bit of a touch between the pair. Could this allow Sanchez to get through? Might be just by the outskirts of turn number 3. Burke could be down to 3rd. Sanchez to the outside.
Has to dip his wheels off into the gravel. That's going to slow him down. Burke survives in P2 for now, but that was the best opportunity we've seen from the 6 car to overtake. He gets another shot at potentially coming towards turn 5, the uphill left-hander, and no, he chooses not to take it. Maybe not wanting to lose touch with Tito up in front and knowing there are still laps left to go. Fastest lap of the race still holds on to the number 7 car, and actually managed to hold back Tiro to about a second behind him that last time by. So maybe responding, maybe try to pick up the pace. Still, Philip Burke has been flummoxed by Vlado on how he is supposed to try and overtake.
Yeah, I think Philip Burke's been trying to use every page in the playbook at the moment to get past Vlado Tito, but it's not working. And you can see here that Xavier Sanchez is still keeping with them at the moment. And now we go through into turn 10. A little bit of a lift off through the corner. Oh, dipped by the left rear wheel of Burke. Could Sanchez dive to the inside here at turn number 11? And the Spaniard, I think, might have just gotten through. He has. And Guardia's got the pair of them at the same time in the Valvoline car. Great stuff by Guardia.
Both of them went off course in that, so it was maybe a little bit too aggressive, but guess who's joined the party? Philip Burke was so compromised. Tiro Hietanen is now into P4, managing to overtake the white and yellow machine. He is now definitely within the slipstream, and he's brought his friends, the top 8, split by only 2.5 seconds.
Oh my goodness me, we've got this and 4 more laps to go here, Joe. This is going to be an absolute classic here on the Skip Barber Race Series, and that just goes to show how close these drivers are in terms of racecraft, but also in terms of car proximity. You know, you get a track like here, 2.2 miles, 11 turns, as Jesus Cabal up the inside. That's a brave move on Brandon Craster. He just about got through on the Braun GP Tribute livery band, but has to slot back in as they go up through turn 6 and then up the Rahal Straight.
Didn't quite work out for them that time. They got to be careful not to lose touch with this front group. There's opportunities to be had if things start to go down, because everybody packed so tight together. One mistake could collect a number of cars. In the meantime, Sanchez, popular streamer, goes by Heike 360, is still working to see if he can maybe take a win away today, and hovers behind Guardia, who has recently taken that P2 away. This is back to Hietanen now, coming up the main straight. It'll be 4 to go at the line.
Yeah, this is going to be really, really close. I mean, the top 8 now covered by 3.5 seconds. Hietanen, new fastest lap, 1:35.303, and the man from Finland, as I said, he was fully charged up after that mistake through the corkscrew. I think it was lap 3 out of 15. Whilst in second position, locks up the right front, and he's now decided, well, I'm not going to make that mistake twice. And now he's gathered himself up, Joe. He's dusted himself off, and now he's got his knives and elbows well and truly out and sharpened for the 3 in front.
Watching back from P2, Sanchez awful close. Chooses to hold on, maybe tries to cut back a little bit, get himself the launch. Watch behind. Tiro's getting really tight to the gearbox of that number 6 now, as they'll hit turn 6, much tighter the apex by the 6 car, and he's going to have a great run coming down the Rahal Straight. So is Philip Burke. He's on the attack. He'll have the inside coming up into the braking, and it almost looks like Tiro maybe gave that one up a bit.
I think he probably didn't want to fight it too much, because he knows that with 4 well, after this it'll be 3 to go, and then anything that can happen. I mean, even though Vlado Tito's got a half-second advantage over Raul Guardia at the moment here, Joe, that really is next to no time at all. If Tito makes a mistake, which he hasn't done all race long, it could still happen as they come out of turn number 11 once again. 3 to go until the checkered. Vlado Tito now has the lead of over 0.6 of a second. Oh, Sanchez, I think, has just gotten a slowdown penalty, which is going to allow Burke up the inside through for P3.
Not seeing a flag unless I just clicked over too late to see if he had. But yeah, it looked like he was very slow there for a second or two. And that loss of momentum was really painful for the number 6 car. It is now Tito, Guardia, Burke, your top 3. That's your podium's drivers at the moment with 3 laps to go. But I don't anticipate it's going to stay like that with the way we've been seeing certain drivers making mistakes here at the end.
One of the things that the drivers don't want to be doing at this point of the race, making mistakes. If you make a mistake, that could compromise your race completely, and the amount of points you will collect after this race, as we are on round number 7 here at Laguna Seca. But no, look, Sanchez right on the rear wing of Burke as they go through. I love that camera shot as they go up the hill. You can just see how close they are to the curbing as we ride on board in cockpit with Tiro Hietanen, right with Xavier Sanchez, now down through the corkscrew once again. Nice and neat and composed. I think Guardia might have just kicked up a little bit of the kitty litter onto the circuit through the final part of turn 8, but nevertheless, it is not stopping these drivers from going absolutely full throttle. And after this crossing of the start-finish line, Vlado Tito has just under 4.5 miles to go.
Yeah, they're going to see more and more dirt there and there as well at the exit of turn 11 as drivers use the and abuse the track limits at this place. Watching them head towards turn 1, Tito is continuing to hold them at about half a second back, so he's been managing that gap, can't say the same for Burke, who's now got Sanchez breathing down his neck.
Yeah, Sanchez was so late on the brakes into the Andretti hairpin, he nearly T-boned the rear end of Burke at that point. But still, again, it is that, look, Burke went sideways, Sanchez sideways, Heaton sideways, all through turn 3. Wonderful sight, but it's not going to help them because they need to go forwards, not backwards.
Exactly. And the more they slide, I think the more they're going to continue to lose ground to those top 2. It's looking like it is slipping through their fingers, especially Heaton, who we know is the quickest on a single lap out of this entire group. That mistake earlier, or did he actually get tipped around? So much has happened. I'm trying to remember what exactly put him back here.
Well, basically, when he went through the corkscrew, he locked up the right front and went straight over. So it was a mistake of his own because he was under pressure by Burke and Sanchez and all. But there was a little bit of a possible moment there for Philip Burke going through the corkscrew, and Sanchez right again is on the rear wing. But it's going to be the white flag this time here, Joe. Vlado Tito has led every single lap. He hasn't put a foot wrong. Guardia right behind him with about a 0.3 of a second gap between them. But versus Sanchez still ahead. And Martinez through on Heitinen. Through at T11. 1 lap to go. White flag is out.
Yeah, Tiro got a cut course penalty that time. I did catch the flag being shown for him. So he had to slow down and give that one back. Tito barely holding on to the lead, and Guardia's going to go for it on this last lap, coming around the outside, tries to cut underneath, but it's hard to do on a double apex corner, and he gets shut down.
That was a good attempt, though, you have to admit. Raul Guardia with the intestinal fortitude, aka guts, of throwing it around the outside. The overspeed he had on Vlado Tito was mighty, but it was not clearly enough to let him get through on the number 2 car as we head towards turn 5 for the final time. This is going to be, I've got a feeling we might have a drag race to the line here, but Guardia, you can see the speed there, 120 kilometers an hour. That's 75 miles an hour through at T5. Now onto the VP Racing Bridge into turn 6 and up the Rahal straight for the final time. Little bump over the curves. Guardia loses about 10 kilometers an hour, but Burke and Sanchez going wheel to wheel out of that corner, and that's brought Martinez and Hayton into the fight. Martinez now up into P4, and look at this, 2x2 Noah's Ark style into the corkscrew.
Holy cow, and they're going to make it work. Burke comes out in 3rd out of that group. We have not shown the top 2 because they have actually separated since we last looked at him. It has suddenly exploded here for P3. Burke will hold on to that spot. Sanchez fends off Martinez as they come into the final corner. You said it could be a drag race. It's going to be a drag race for those behind. Up at the front, Vlado Tito will take the win this round. Guardia with 2nd. Burke in 3rd, but he is leading an absolute trail of cars behind him at the line.
Wow. I mean, I did say 3 wide. I never thought I'd see 2x2 Noah's Ark style going through the corkscrew on the final lap of the race. How's about that for a grandstand finish? We've still got some battles happening. We've got, this is Patrick Fowler. He's battling away with Martin Marin as they're going to come across the line. It's going to be a drag race to the line for P14. And Fowler's just going to miss out, but he gave it a good shot.
Suaponki, unfortunately, looks like he got in a little bit of a tangle with another driver, so he fell down a couple spots at the end to 12th. I think that may have been Dorner with him that got tipped around and half spun. Impressively, even though we didn't have that many laps, there was only a single split, so you should see some variety in lap times. We only had 2 cars wind up laps down, and I think that's because they were DNFs. Everybody else managed to stay on the lead lap, including this last car on the lead lap here, the number 19 of Jacques Perrineau. So he'll bring it around to the start-finish line as the Swiss driver wraps up his race. And as usual, Skip Barber's put on a heck of a show out here on Laguna Seca, and they always seem to manage to give us some excitement no matter which track we take them to. Up at the front of it, it was in the end Vlado Tito, your victor over Raul Guardia, who came home in 2nd position. And then behind them, rounding out the podium, it was Philip Burke. Zabir Sanchez not going to be able to spray the champagne today. He gets a P4. Tiro Heitinen was in 5th, with Ricardo Martinez in 6th and Brandon Crasta in 7th. Jesus Cabal was 8th, Jeff Randall 9th, and then rounding out the top 10, Alex, going to be Jose Pina.
Yeah, and then looking at the next part of the top 20, Marcus Dorner finishing ahead of Peter Suopanki. Pedro Berberara rounding out 13th. It was a bit of a difficult one for Luca Martin Marin, having a couple of dramas. Patrick Fowler rounded out the top 15 ahead of Emanuele Lecce, with Juan Antonio Hernandez, Guillermo Iglesias, Mark Olszak, and Mauricio Acevedo coming home in 20th.
And then last finisher was Jacques Perrenu, with Jaap Wilschutt and Eduardo Zuniga, unfortunately not seeing the checkered flag on this one. But with how tough of a track it is, that's not too bad of a record. Only 2 DNFs out of 23 drivers starting the race. And while we do have a little bit more of our post-race show, before we get to it, we do want to mention what's coming up next here for both this series and the channel. And that, of course, is going to be Watkins Glen, November 6th here for Skip Barber Sim Racing Series, as they will head to a much bigger track with a lot more drafting. So going to be dramatically different to what we witnessed here today, Alex.
Yeah, another circuit that is going to provide a close quarter battle like we've seen here. You know, different elevation changes, different cambers. Of course, the boot is one of the biggest things that you have to contend with at Watkins Glen, because you've also got the loops, the inner and the outer loop to contend with. So that's going to be one that you've got to really, really get the cars on point in regards to the setup. So, yeah, another one that's going to bring a lot of fun here on the Skip Barber Race Series.
Looking forward to that one and seeing how they handle it. Unfortunately, I don't think I'm going to get to call that one, but I'm sure we'll see plenty of excitement. We're just waiting to see if we get anybody in for interviews. It's kind of a crapshoot on whether or not drivers hop on in. So we're kind of hoping on this one, because boy, we had some great battles there, especially from 3rd down to 5th.
I'd like to hear from Tiro Heitinen about what actually happened that prompted the lockup, because he was under some significant pressure in that race from Philip Burke, Javi Sanchez, and Guardia as well. And when you think about it, Guardia, he took complete advantage of Burke and Sanchez going completely wide coming out of turn number 11 and thought, right, let's see if I can do the old Slim Shady round the outside of Vlado Tito, and it nearly worked. So you know what, I think it was all in all, that's what a Skip Barber race should be: close quarter and unpredictability, very much tour de force and front and center.
I agree. It definitely showed us what these cars can do. It is a bit sad that they don't compete anymore in real life, but they got kind of long in the tooth. But we still have the virtual world to get to witness them drive. And this was a very fitting track, not just because it's used to be one of the base content tracks. So it's owned by a lot of drivers here on iRacing here, Alex, but it's also one of those tracks that we saw Skip Barber in these cars actually compete on in the real world.
Yeah, for a multitude of years, Joe, and of course the Skip Barber Race Academy has helped to promote talents, not just within national motorsport within America, but also internationally. You know, so it does go to show that just like Formula Ford, which is still going on in the United Kingdom, you know, we have the Formula Ford Festival, we have the Walter Hayes Trophy here in the UK. It's still good to see that the virtual world can keep things like Skip Barber well and truly alive.
Yeah, it definitely is a good comparison. Not really, even though they have wings, not really downforce cars. So it's all about that open wheel experience and building up your resume. Looks like we unfortunately won't have anybody joining us. So we're going to close this one out with a big thank you, of course, to everybody on the team, Alex, Christian, and Dougie. Make sure to subscribe to GSRC so you don't miss a moment on the channel. We will have some other races coming up later, including the Grand Prix Legends going to Zandvoort on this weekend. So be sure to check those out. But until next time, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.